Besides everything else going on in the world, there is distractions forming for the BYU football program, and those come in the form of your head coach potentially entertaining an offer to go coach another football program. We already saw this with one playoff team, Ole Miss. The Rebels have lost their head coach. Lane Kiffin thought he could have his cake and eat it too, and he thought he would be able to coach Ole Miss in the playoff, all the while recruiting and building his staff and doing all the things that new head coaches do at LSU. Ole Miss, and as I would expect every program, and if this came to BYU, I expect them to do the same thing, said, no, you absolutely, there is no way you are coaching our team while also simultaneously being the head coach of a conference rival, and I don't care if it's conference rival or not. You're not going to be the head coach of another football program and be coaching our team in the playoff. That's going to hurt Ole Miss's chances in the playoff. There's just zero doubt about that because they look like they're an at-large team. We will see what happens with the playoff committee and how they handle that tomorrow when the rankings come out, the penultimate, the second to last rankings come out, and ultimately see where BYU goes as well. But the fact is, BYU has to, in the locker room, focus on the fact that they have every opportunity to become the chaos agent, as it were, for the college football playoff. And what I mean by that is we are looking at BYU maybe being the first program, let's say they are 11-2, to miss out on the college football playoff and be left out in the cold if they were to lose to Texas Tech. BYU's way to guarantee themselves to play in the postseason, to play in the playoff, is to win this game this Saturday. But there are distractions, major distractions at that, forming around BYU, and it is going to be incumbent on BYU's team leadership, because Kalani talks all the time about this being a player-led program. Well, these player leaders for BYU, I'm talking about the likes of Tanner Wall, Keanu Tanuvasa, the Bruce Mitchells of the world, on down the list. Like, you have to have these senior or junior/senior leaders step up and say, guys, no matter what's going on with the coaches, no matter what's going on outside this locker room, we have the power to guarantee ourselves to go to the college football playoff. And the way we do that is to go out there, get revenge on Texas Tech, and find somehow, some way to win this football game. It is much easier said than done to beat the Texas Tech Red Raiders, because as Greg Wrubell said on social media yesterday, there are little to no weaknesses if you go by metrics in Texas Tech's game. Really, the only thing is they have a few too many penalties, and that's really the only weakness if you want to look at where they're ranked in all these different metrics. They're pretty downright elite across the board, and that's a credit to their roster composition. They've got great pass rushers, they got an incredible front seven, they've got an elite offense and a really, really strong running game. They're going to be really, really tough to defeat. But BYU, if they were to pull off in what some consider to be the unthinkable on Saturday, they would force the college football playoff's hands and force them to put two Big 12 teams in the playoff. Because as I said on the postcast edition of this podcast, there is just no way in any way, shape, or form that I believe that if BYU beats Texas Tech on Saturday, thereby guaranteeing that they have the automatic berth into the playoff from the Big 12, and then Texas Tech, who is ranked 5 right now, we'll see where they move potentially in these rankings tomorrow. There is no way that I see the playoff committee dropping Texas Tech so far as to drop them maybe into that number 11 spot for BYU, thereby throwing Texas Tech out into the cold and getting BYU in the field. Cody Campbell would burn the college football playoff to the ground, it feels like, if that were to happen. So for all the bluster the SEC is making about getting 5, maybe 6 teams into this field, BYU can force the hand of the playoff committee and say, oh, you're going to make the Big 12 a multi-bid squad. And it comes in the form of BYU, as I say, being that chaos agent and winning the Big 12 title. Hang the banner, go to the postseason, and see what you can do. And it's all going to reside in that locker room. Coaches coach, players play. I say that all the time on this podcast. For any of you who have been longtime, everyday listeners, I talk about this often, is that you can be upset with coaches and the way that they go about their business on in terms of calling plays and the like. Ultimately, it's the players that make the plays, and that is what needs to go this week for the BYU football program. These players, they need to lock in. They need to tell their teammates around them, ignore everything. Lock it out. Turn off social media. Delete the social media apps. Don't let your friends talk to you about it. Say, hey, thanks, but I'm not talking about that right now. I have got a game to go win. And that's got to be the mindset that BYU has. There can be no, it's probably an inappropriate term. There can be no cowering away from the challenge that you are looking at right now when it comes to going up against the Texas Tech Red Raiders, because they are a formidable opponent. You saw that firsthand. All of us watched it when they went to Lubbock and lost this game. And guess what? There are going to be thousands, tens of thousands of Texas Tech fans at AT&T Stadium on Saturday. It is going to be a sight to behold. And I don't expect the BYU is not going to be well represented as well down there in Dallas, because I've heard from a lot of you who are going to this game. It should make for an absolutely electric atmosphere, and it should, in theory, in a neutral site venue, give BYU better odds to win this football game. But it's all in BYU's hands, because for all the talk, all the bluster, all the whining, all the complaining about the fact that the playoff committee is giving BYU no love, guess what? It's all still right there for BYU to take into their hands and control it, and all it takes is one football game win. As I mentioned, it's much easier. I can sit here and talk about how I think BYU does it. And I talked at length. If you want to hear how I think BYU should attack Texas Tech, go check out the postcast edition of the show. I do think that the ASU game plan, the only game that Texas Tech lost, yes, I know they didn't have Baron Morton in that game, but he doesn't play defense last I checked. The way that ASU attacked this the way that Arizona State attacked this Texas Tech defense, I think is the way that BYU should plan on attacking it. And it probably would require Aaron Roderick, Kalani Sitake to step away from essentially a lot of what they've implemented and what they believe in, the tried and true methods BYU has done this season. But crazy times call for crazy measures, and it feels like this is an opportunity for BYU, as I mentioned, to go out there and show what they're capable of and prove the committee wrong. Because the committee wants to downgrade BYU because of one singular loss this season. They've won 11 games, and all of it seems to be for naught because of the one loss that the quote unquote, they didn't look competitive against Texas Tech. You know what? The offense sucked that day. The special teams sucked that day, but the defense more than held its own. And if BYU's offense can have more of a pulse in the game this Saturday, and maybe bolstered by the reintroduction of maybe a guy like Sione Moa into the running game where you have two running backs, who knows what you could pull off. But that goes back to the original point of this, is there's a lot of distractions around BYU. Yeah, your head coach may be entertaining leaving for State College, Pennsylvania, and maybe doing it this week. That's an incredible distraction. But the players in that locker room need to coalesce around each other and tell the guys around them, guys, we can do nothing about what Kalani is going to do for his future. It sucks. We get it, but tune it all out. Focus on the here and now. Let's have our best week of practice, and let's go put our heart and soul on the line on Saturday at AT&T Stadium, and let's go live our dream. Let's hang a banner. Let's win a Big 12 title. Let's go to the college football playoff. For all those people who say that BYU couldn't get it done, let's go shut them up. That is what BYU's players, that player leadership, it's got to lead the way this week, with everything else seemingly distracting them as they get ready for this game. We'll break it down more in depth coming up this week. I'll do a crossover edition with the guys on Locked On Texas Tech. We will have it covered for you guys top to bottom, and I'm going to be there at AT&T Stadium, and I sincerely hope the BYU has a much better showing on the field on Saturday. And I would love for a win to punch down that door, kick down the door of the college football playoff committee and say, y'all thought you could shut us out. Now you can do nothing about it. I almost said a bad word there again.